Members, we have a quorum and it's the appointed time. I call to order the meeting. Agenda item 1, information papers issued since the last meeting. The Secretariat has issued one paper to members. It is set out on the agenda. Please take note of it. Agenda item 2, Blueprint for Arts and Culture and Creative Industries Development, LC paper number CB bracket 3957/2024 bracket 01. Let's invite the government officials to join us. For this item, we have with us Ms. Rosanna Law, who has just assumed the post of Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Welcome, Rosanna. We also have Ms. Vivian Sum, Permanent Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Ms. Winnie Che, Deputy Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Ms. Manda Chen, Director of Leisure and Cultural Services. Ms. Eve Tam, Deputy Director of Leisure and Cultural Services. And Mr. Victor Zhang, Commissioner for Cultural and Creative Industries. Welcome. Ms. Law, please walk us through the paper. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. This is my first time attending this panel meeting in the capacity of the Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. This item concerns the Blueprint for Arts and Culture and Creative Industries Development. 2 weeks ago, that is on the 26th of November, the government promulgated the Blueprint for Arts and Culture and Creative Industries Development. We will give members a briefing today. We also want to respond to any questions from members about our policies on arts and culture. I want to take this opportunity to listen to members' views as well. The outline of the 14th Five-Year Plan states the support for Hong Kong to develop into an East meets West Center for international cultural exchange. Such positioning manifested our country's expectation of Hong Kong, and it also gives recognition to the flourishing growth of arts, culture, and creative industries in Hong Kong over the years, and it provided the sectors with abundant development opportunities. The current term government has been actively promoting the arts and culture sector. The policy addresses of the current term government have been covering our different policies. Our goal is to promote Chinese culture, enhance cultural exchange, developing cultural facilities, and promoting industry development, and so on. The Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau has been through different channels, maintaining close communication with stakeholders to understand the development trends and needs of the industry. As we drafted the blueprint, we wanted to finalize and implement different policies to promote the development of the industries. The blueprint is a document setting out the long-term vision. It sets out the clear goals, principles, and strategic directions for future development so that all stakeholders can work towards a common goal. As we strive to enhance the appeal of Hong Kong's culture, we try to boost our people's sense of achievement and happiness. Our vision is to develop Hong Kong into an East meets West Center for international cultural exchange. We want to promote the characteristics of Hong Kong that is rooted in Chinese culture and embracing Western culture. We want to foster the development of high-quality arts, culture, and creative industries. To enrich the spiritual needs of people in Hong Kong, we want to provide impetus to enable sustainable development of Hong Kong's art and culture while telling good stories of Hong Kong and China. The blueprint sets out 6 principles. First, integrating into the national development. Second, diversity with identity and embracing different development and creations. 3, creative transformation and innovative development. 4, people-oriented and long-term investment. 5, market-driven development and integration of culture, sports, and tourism. And 6, holistic approach with community participation and cross-sectoral collaboration. The blueprint covers 4 strategic directions, including 71 measures in total. The first direction is to promote profound traditional Chinese culture and develop cultural contents with Hong Kong character. We value our Chinese culture and we seek to promote cultural characteristics that are aligned with the one country, two systems principle. We want to promote traditional Chinese culture and strengthen people's understanding and appreciation of Chinese culture. And on this foundation, we want to develop Chinese cultural essence to ensure the inheritance and transmission of Chinese culture. Under this direction, we have 4 key points. First, enhancing the structure of museums. Second, promoting the characteristics of Lingnan legacy. 3, promoting profound traditional Chinese culture by organizing more activities. And 4, nurturing talents and complementing the work on patriotic education. There are 16 measures under this direction. The second strategic direction is to develop diverse arts and culture industries with international perspective. Hong Kong is a melting pot of Eastern and Western culture. We will continue to encourage the creativity and enrich the content of creative industries. We will make use of the influence of pop culture in Hong Kong to showcase the characteristics of Hong Kong and to attract tourists to come. We want to develop Hong Kong as a capital of creativity. We will stage large-scale events. We will encourage members of the public as well as the business sector to participate in all these events. There are 4 main points under this direction. First, developing Hong Kong as the capital of creativity. Second, developing Hong Kong as the capital of pop culture. Third, improving the quantity and quality of hardware in Hong Kong. And 4th, enhancing cultural environment. There are 17 measures in total under this direction. The third strategic direction is to establish international platforms to foster East meets West arts and cultural exchange. We will continue to leverage our advantages as we have the backing of our motherland as well as the close connection with the world to tell good stories of Hong Kong and China. On the other hand, we will continue to consolidate Hong Kong's status as the capital of mega arts and cultural events. Through staging arts and cultural events, we will promote exchanges so that we will become a hub of arts and cultural appreciation. Under this direction, there are 3 main points. First, consolidating Hong Kong's position as the capital of international mega arts and cultural events. Second, utilizing Hong Kong's internationalized curatorial and creative skills to promote profound traditional Chinese culture and Hong Kong's unique culture. Third, attracting arts groups and practitioners from the mainland and overseas to conduct cultural exchange with Hong Kong. There are 14 measures under this direction. The 4th strategic direction is to enhance the ecosystem for the arts, culture, and creative industries. Hong Kong is well positioned to promote industry development in arts, culture, and creativity. We seek to enhance ecological chains of the cultural and creative talent pool to draw together different types of talents and to promote cross-sectoral collaboration to encourage creation of new contents. We'll also encourage the participation of the private sector as well as other sectors to help promote industry development. Under this direction, we have 5 main points and highlights. First, promoting arts, culture, and creativity and establish industry chain in Hong Kong. Second, enhancing ecological chains of the cultural and creative talent pool. Third, strengthening market forces. Fourth, supporting industries to explore the mainland and international markets, and fifth, providing better infrastructure. There are 24 measures in total under this direction. Moving forward, building on this foundation laid down by the blueprint, we hope that 10 years later, that is 2034, the value added of the arts, culture, and creative industries will reach $200 billion, and the number of people employed in these sectors will reach 264,000. These sectors are all intertwined. We will stick to the diversity with identity and embracing different development and creations principle. At the same time, we have to continue to identify our advantages in different areas and promote them. We need the participation of the business sector as well as the relevant industries. This is crucial. The government will, together with the strategic partners, including the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, Hong Kong Arts Development Council, Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts, other education and academic institutions, arts groups, and art practitioners, to drive participation of the business and other sectors. We will, based on socio-economic changes, views and response of the sectors, as well as the continuous development of arts and culture, maintain close communication with the sectors in reviewing the priorities and action plans of the strategic directions and measures. We will also seek to obtain resources to take forward the relevant initiatives. We will, in the most effective manner, actively promote the long-term development of the arts, culture, and creative industries. That's all for my briefing. My colleagues and I are happy to take any questions and listen to members' views on the blueprint. Thank you. Members, if you have any questions, please press the button. 14 members have pressed the request to speak button. They are in the following order: Mr. Kenneth Leung, Dr. Johnny Ng, Mr. Benson Look, Ms. Jovi Chen, Mr. Rock Chen, Mr. Kenneth Lau, Ms. Rebecca Chen, Ms. Connie Lam, Mr. Vincent Chang, Mr. Michael Look, Mr. Brave Chen, Ms. Chen Yut Ming, Ms. Nixie Lam, and myself. We have a considerable number of members who have pressed the button, so I'll be strict with the time, 4 minutes for each member, questions and answers inclusive. Mr. Kenneth Leung, please. Thank you, Chairman. I welcome Secretary for attending this panel meeting for the first time. We are discussing the blueprint for arts and culture and creative industries development. I hope that our industries will be like the color of Ms. Rosanna Lam's clothes today, that is, will be thriving like the red color. In the coming 10 years, the value added will reach $200 billion and the number of persons employed will reach 264,000. In terms of the KPI, in 10 years' time, what will be the percentage of GDP of these industries? Also, what are the biggest growth points identified by the Secretary? There's not much mention about broadening audience base as well as enhancing audiences' literacy in arts and culture in the blueprint. How will the government nurture our young people and teach them how to learn and appreciate arts and culture so that when they grow up, they will be willing to spend money out of their pocket to appreciate arts and cultural performances? I don't think there is much mention about this in the blueprint. My other question concerns this. In the blueprint, there is mention about converting industrial buildings into black box theater and small-scale theaters. I've been advocating this and I'm happy that there is such an initiative put forward in the blueprint. We have encountered issues concerning the buildings ordinance as well as fire safety requirements. What makes you confident that you'll be able to achieve this time around?
Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I haven't yet grasped all the details, so my answers will be general. First of all, on the GDP, we have projection criteria. The real GDP growth, economic growth, for instance. But I believe the economic growth of the arts and culture and creative industries will be greater than that of the GDP. We expect a 4.2% of the growth in these industries. We saw an increase of 5.1% in the past. So in 2034, for the overall contribution of the industries, we'll have to factor in other industries as well. Say we have 8 centers in Hong Kong. These are being built. We have sketchy ideas, but we'll firm up our plan later on in the future. There are different ways to increase the number of audience members. Well, I think we have both folk culture as well as high arts culture. We attract a wide range of audience. We can achieve a win-win situation when we can attract a wide range of audience members. In relation to industrial buildings, say fire safety, buildings ordinance, land use, building structure, there used to be some restrictions. For the current term government, drawing on my experience in the Housing Bureau, we have done quite a lot in removing red tape. But I'd like to emphasize not just industrial buildings. There are also places with commercial value. Right now, there are also venues that can be converted into venues for performances. We can make good use of these venues. Thank you. Dr. Johnny Ng. Welcome, Ms. Rosanna Law. Congratulations on assuming this position. I declare I am still a member of the Arts Development Council. I'd like to ask about industrialization of the industry. This blueprint is quite a breakthrough. The government mentioned the industrialization of the arts industry. People used to think we need to spend a lot on arts, but I'm still glad to see the government spending on developing this industry. The blueprint is silent on how to provide support, any tax concessions, any measures. I agree with involving the industry as well. We want to attract a wide range of audience members. On hardware, that is providing better infrastructures. We have a school venue pilot scheme. There's a lack of venues in Hong Kong. Is there any subsidy to be provided to schools? In the US, there are Broadway shows which may be on for 20 to 30 shows. In Hong Kong, however, we don't have shows that run for such a long time. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of our country. Many industries want to come to Hong Kong for development. We have Hong Kong APA in Hong Kong. Have you considered providing more opportunities for talents? Will you also escalate Hong Kong APA to the university level? The chief executive mentioned the Study in Hong Kong brand. We need to provide high-end training to talents. Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I thank Dr. Johnny Ng for his support. Thank you for fostering the development of the arts and culture industries. In relation to industrialization, yes, this is indeed necessary. However good the art is, we do need to see its ability to create economic value. That's exactly how we can make it sustainable against the current economic situation. Tax concessions are available in other countries. We have one of the most favorable tax regimes around the world. With the current fiscal position of the administration, how much room do we have to put in place tax concession arrangements? I do need to look into this situation. In relation to hardware, I understand that there are more school venues to be used as sports venues. In relation to performance venues, I need to talk to my colleagues. I've been to some schools. Their school halls are similar to theaters. When they don't need to use their school halls, can they lend their school halls? And we do need to look into hosting more shows in Hong Kong. Local training, traveling for talents, these are main points. In relation to hardware, a quite large-scale expansion has just been completed, and we'll have to discuss with the Education Bureau to see whether the Hong Kong APA can be elevated to a university level. The Hong Kong APA is an important base for talent grooming, but in other institutions, there are also talent training programs. Thank you. Mr. Benson Look. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Secretary. I hope the arts and culture and creative industries will be massive, as bright as the top of the Secretary. The blueprint is a long-awaited one. I am more concerned about the development of the film industry. I have a member's motion that is waiting to be discussed in the Council. The blueprint mentions 40 times film industry, including supporting directors and helping industry practitioners with potential to widen their horizons. I can see the Secretary's work in this regard. We have The Last Dance, and we also have another local film that is Twilight Warriors Walled In. If we need to bring back the film industry to the 90s, we may have to make more efforts. The healthy development of the industrial chain is very important. There were news reports mentioning the fact that the film industry is facing a lot of challenges. We have online platforms. The local film industry has actually spent a lot. They made a lot of efforts to provide good film entertainment to the public. Can we draw reference from overseas places? Can we allow eating in the theater? There are different restrictions. I want to ask the administration whether you can provide more business facilitation measures or provide tax concessions. Earlier on, the administration has signed CEPA with China. It is about relaxing the requirements of Hong Kong movies being imported into mainland China. For top stars in Hong Kong, of course, they can do voice acting. But new practitioners may not be well up in the operation of the film industry in mainland China. They are probably not excellent in Putonghua. So what kind of measures will be in place in order to help us embrace the mainland market? And I have to declare the organization I work for has to do with films or the films industry. I remind members to give the administration some time to respond to your questions. In the 90s, the film industry was indeed booming back then in Hong Kong. There were a lot of good films. The pandemic has dealt a blow to the local films industry. We aren't seeing as many as films as we did in the past. We have The Twilight of the Warriors walked in with the theme of the Wall City, and we also have The Last Dance that is about the local culture of undertaking. These are unique characteristics of Hong Kong. Probably investment is massive, but if we can revitalize local film industry and if we can bring about more productions in the future, then I am optimistic about the future. The audience can buy snacks in movie theaters right now, but I believe members mentioned this point not just about snacks. Member probably refers to having meals in theater. In relation to SIPA, will the new generation of movie stars have better linguistic proficiency? I believe we have to look at the background of the stars. Putonghua education is implemented quite well at secondary and primary schools. I've heard member and will look into the situation. Thank you. Ms. Jofi Chan, Deputy Chair. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary. The blueprint has taken on board quite a lot of views of the FTU, say red tourism and the promotion of fine traditional Chinese culture through films and so on. The blueprint mentions enhancing collaboration in the community or between the community and the industry. It also mentions revitalizing industrial buildings and driving the development of arts and culture and creative industry development. Well, I propose developing Chun Wan. We have Nanfeng Mills, which is a very important venue to tap into the wisdom of the young people in Hong Kong. Then we can develop Hong Kong into an East-Meets-West center for international cultural exchange. We can leverage on the mills that is in Chun Wan. We can achieve synergy with the mills. The blueprint for Hong Kong Tourism Development 2.0 will be announced soon. I'd like to know how the administration will better integrate the blueprint into this blueprint that is the blueprint for arts and culture and creative industries development. I also have a suggestion. In the motion of thanks this year, we have Energizing Kowloon East and another program for Energizing Island. Chun Wan has a very impressive coastline. There is potential for Qingyi to have water activities. And I'm going to promote more seminars in Hong Kong, and I look forward to seeing the Secretary in the event. In relation to industrial buildings, I talked about it. I also visited the mills. It is a very creative venue, and we've heard from members. We will see how we can make better use of the mills. Arts, culture, and tourism, they are interlinked. One of the important directions is to foster East-Meets-West cultural exchange. We need to go global. but we also need to attract overseas units to come to Hong Kong. When they come to Hong Kong, we expect to compare notes with them in relation to the development of arts and culture and creative industries. Meanwhile, they will also become high-end tourists or visitors to Hong Kong. We need to enrich their travel experience in Hong Kong. Whether for performing arts, museums, conventions, exhibitions, all these are very appealing to tourists. We do need to develop these areas. If we can enhance the contents in these areas and if we can attract them to come to Hong Kong again, this will be ideal. In relation to anti-South, yes, I grew up in anti-South as well. The music effect in Sha Tin New Town Hall is the best, as it is hailed. Yes, I watch Cantonese opera in Kuai Theatre as well. Thank you.
Mr. Rock Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I congratulate the Secretary and I welcome her for attending this panel meeting. My first question concerns the film industry, but from the perspective of talent nurturing. How will the SAR government systematically and comprehensively cultivate talent? We have director, playwright, and those responsible for music effects and so on. How can we nurture different types of talent to support our film industry? My second question. I myself support developing Hong Kong into an East-Meets-West Center for international cultural exchange. The Secretary talks about how we can build such a platform. I think we have very good hardware. We have the West Kowloon Cultural District, we have the Palace Museum, we also have the M+ Museum. Will the government take the lead to, for example, work with the British Museum or the Louvre in France and borrow exhibits from them so that they can be on display in Hong Kong museums? We also have ballet groups as well as Chinese music groups in Hong Kong. Can these groups work with overseas music groups and organizations so that we can integrate Eastern and Western cultures? Will the government play a more active role in this regard? Secretary, on cultivating talent, it is mostly the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts that's responsible for that. Of course, other education institutions have been doing that as well. I will invite Mr. Deng to elaborate on this point. On how the government can take the lead currently, the Hong Kong Museum of Art, the Palace Museum, as well as the M+ Museum have different collaborative schemes. The Palace Museum in Hong Kong mostly works with the Palace Museum in the mainland. On the arts front, I know that the Arts Museum have been working with overseas museums on works from the medieval age as well as Impressionist works and religious paintings. On collaboration between music groups, I believe you have noticed about a GBOA festival which sees the collaboration between the Hong Kong Philharmonic Group as well as the orchestra in Macau. I think it was a very good performance. We hope that there can be more high-level collaborations between Hong Kong's music groups as well as music groups in the GBA. We also have guest conductors in Hong Kong. I believe they can bring new impetus to Hong Kong, as well as stimulation to the industries. On cultivation of talent, Mr. Deng, please. On the film industry, as mentioned In the second point, under the fourth strategic direction, it is about nurturing talent. We have talked to the film industry about how to nurture talent. We have the first film scheme. A lot of directors who do not have the relevant experience can take part in this scheme. Some of the box office hits like Time Still Turns the Pages is a masterpiece of a director from this scheme. I've also talked to directors about nurturing talent. We have experienced film directors who are offering training to emerging talents in order to pass on the skills and knowledge. Mr. Kenneth Lau. Secretary, congratulations. I believe members of the public have high expectations on you. The Blueprint for Arts and Culture and Creative Industries Development puts forward 4 strategic directions and 71 measures. This sets out a clear vision and direction for the future development of the arts, culture, and creative industries. I believe this will help consolidate our status as an East-Meets-West Center for International Cultural Exchange. I want to ask about the financial position of the WKCDA. The policy address supports the WKCDA to build a supply chain and industrial chain. Also, the WKCD should become a landmark for arts and culture. WKCDA as the leader of the arts and cultural industry, people have high hopes on the WKCDA. However, we're all worried about the financial position of it. The outstanding balance is about $520 million. Some land has been allocated to WKCDA. I believe WKCDA will make good use of the sites. However, the real estate market is in doldrums and it is not easy to sell properties nowadays. The government is facing a $100 billion fiscal deficit. How will the government rescue WKCDA? Have you made an assessment on whether the WKCDA can run on a self-financing basis? Secretary, on WKCDA, we need to find a way to make sure that it has financial sustainability. However, I do agree that we should not be complacent and that we have to continue to work hard. Perhaps I will ask Ms. Vivian Sum to tell you more. In the middle of this year, the WKCDA announced 4 directions that it will take in the future. First, it will expand the art trading ecosystem. This is one of the measures that will help increase its revenue. Also, we will help promote WKCD as an arts and cultural venue hub. Also, we will increase the output of arts and cultural works, and also we will build WKCD as an arts and cultural landmark. These strategic directions will help increase the source of revenue of the WKCDA. Also, this will help contain the expenditure of the WKCDA. We believe that the WKCDA, through these concrete measures, will improve its financial position. Thank you, Chairman. Anything to add? All right. Ms. Rebecca Chan. Thank you, Chairman. This blueprint has set out an outline for arts and culture and creative industries in Hong Kong. It mentions about promoting Chinese culture and passing on Chinese culture and that we have to build landmarks. However, before we achieve this, we have to identify the root of the problem. In 1997, when back then the government and the chief executive Tong Chi-wa mentioned about arts and culture development industry. In year 2000, the Culture Commission was set up. In 2022, the policy address also mentions about speeding up the development of arts and culture industries in Hong Kong. So 20 years later, we are finally seeing this blueprint. But before we study this blueprint, should we first identify where the root of the problems lies? This development blueprint mentions about cultivating talent, developing film and TV industries, converting industrial buildings into theaters, and so on. Can we first address the root cause of the problems? And this development blueprint sets out a 10-year plan. We should be more innovative. For example, we should integrate culture and technology, as well as culture and finance. However, there is a lack of such forward-looking measures in this blueprint. We must integrate technology with arts and culture. What are the thoughts of the government? I myself, when I was a secondary school student, was a member of a drama society. However, you really need passion in order to stay in this industry. The blueprint doesn't really touch on this, and the blueprint only mentions about converting industrial buildings into theaters. Secretary. I've only assumed this post for 3 days, and I'm afraid I won't be able to tell members the root cause of the problems in our arts and culture industries. However, I do see that this is a topic that is close to many members' hearts. That's why the current term government has established the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau. We try to integrate all these areas. This is the first step. The second step is this blueprint for arts and culture and creative industries development. And one focus is that we want to promote industry development. Over the past decade or so, the government has been increasing its subsidies for the industries. However, we haven't seen significant growth in the industries. I think part of the problem is that we really need to drive industry development. We need to make sure that the industries have sustainable revenue so that even without subsidies, they can sustain operations. Also, we have to understand the trends of the industry so that we can offer support accordingly. So I would look at all these areas. I thank Ms. Rebecca Chan for her questions. It allows me to really think about how we can come up with a solution. And member mentioned that we should integrate technology and finance with arts and culture. We, of course, need the support of the business sector for financing. We often talk about ESG nowadays. Perhaps the arts and culture industries are closely related to ESG. We can perhaps create synergy by integrating the two. I believe we can have new ideas about this, so I thank member for the questions. I will think about this. Ms. Connie Lam. Congratulations, Ms. Rosanna Law. I hope that under the leadership of Ms. Rosanna Law, we can have new development in culture, sports, and tourism in Hong Kong. In pop music as well as film, we used to be the leading hub in Asia. Many artists from the 70s and 80s were very popular around the world. However, we lack IP and the cultural confidence. We don't have the opportunities or occasions for tourists who come to Hong Kong to appreciate the artists in Hong Kong, like Leslie Chen. Also, Hong Kong signed the CIPA amendment with the mainland, and the relevant sectors and restrictions have been removed. We haven't been able to make use of the advantages we have under CIPA to develop our film and TV industries. I want to talk about the concept of Hong Kong studio again. I previously suggested reserving sites in Hong Kong, and through the use of virtual reality, we can perhaps showcase places and themes that were popular in the 70s and 80s. We can recreate scenes from famous Hong Kong movies so that we can boost the economic benefits brought by the film and TV industry. Some of the films that feature Bruce Lee, as well as movies like Infernal Affairs, they have been very popular among people in Hong Kong. Recently, we have the movie The Last Dance, and some people from the Greater Bay Area, they come to Hong Kong to watch the movie 3 times. I hope we can do more to revive the arts and culture as well as film industries. Now I want to turn to the busking culture in Hong Kong. Some underground bands, they become famous through busking activities. I hope that apart from concerts in WKCD, perhaps in Mong Kok and places near piers, there can be sites reserved for busking activities to nurture young people who love music. Thank you.
Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. The film culture and pop music are indeed treasures of Hong Kong. As Ms. Connie Lam mentioned, in Chinese music world, Hong Kong plays a leading role when it comes to pop music as well as the film industry. We are well known around the world. Other countries have been doing a lot on this front. On the one hand, we need to make good use of the treasures we have. On the other hand, we also need to foster further development. We need to build Hong Kong into a pop culture capital, as mentioned in the blueprint. Apart from policy initiatives from the administration, when it comes to implementation, we do need industries to make good use of their creativity. Classic scenes of films. For example, when we go to Korea, we also visit some popular scenes. Say we can develop these famous movie scenes into tourist hotspots. Say the Kowloon walled city no longer exists in Hong Kong, so how can we create the scene? We need to think about it. When it comes to busking, we understand it is immensely popular among young people. They have busking performances in Tsim Sha Tsui. Member also mentioned Sai Yang Choi Street. When I took different roles in the administration, I needed to work very hard to strike a balance between busking performances and the public's perception or feelings. We need to take into account the feelings of the residents living in the locality. But right, for young people who want to stage performances, we'll think whether we have a venue for these young people to perform. Next, Mr. Vincent Chang, please be brief, members. Please allow some time for the administration to reply. Mr. Vincent Chang. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary, for coming to this meeting. I thank the administration for working on this blueprint. I am a member of the Culture Commission. I understand this blueprint is not easy to be formulated. The administration has talked to the industry and other stakeholders, and this blueprint is indeed a good one. It sets out a lot of policy initiatives. Several points are close to my heart. We do want to see facilitation measures, temporary entertainment venue licenses, harborfront. The public related to me that they found it quite difficult to hold events, and I look forward to more facilitation measures rolled out by the government. In relation to the 9 major performance venues, the Impossible trial was very successful. Tickets in Beijing and Shanghai were sold. And I do want to see the major events being promoted and implemented. In relation to the Mega ACE Fund, some are quite successful, some are less. 20%, we do want to attract 20% of the visitors. We have Art Basel Hong Kong, we also have Art Central. But how can we step up promotion in order to attract more visitors to come to Hong Kong? We need to work harder. On the WKCDA, we went to a festival in the WKCD. There was traffic congestion. I want the Secretary to look into the situation. Sometimes there is traffic congestion, whereas sometimes no one goes to the WKCD. Thank you. In relation to the application for a PPE license, there is room for streamlining the relevant application procedures. For the current term government, we have the same goal. We want to provide facilitation measures to streamline the procedures. I'll look into this. In relation to performance venues, the WKCD is building new venues. We have quite many plazas, commercial venues for smaller scale performance venues. It may not be easy to rent the stores or the shops to performers. So instead of spending a lot of resources providing more venues, this may not be practical. We need to make good use of existing resources. When it comes to the traffic situation in the West Kowloon Cultural District, indeed, when there are performances, probably there will be more cars in the locality. As a former commissioner for transport, I encourage the public to use public transport, especially the MTR. The bridge connects the WKCD and Elements. It's quite walkable, and people don't have to be stuck in traffic. Mr. Michael Lok. Thank you, Chairman. When developing the arts and culture and creative industries, we need to make it massive, just like the outfit of the Secretary today. It needs to be bright and massive. Ambience is key when it comes to arts. Just now, a colleague mentioned busking performances. There is a certification system for buskers in, say, China and other places. So there's a standard when it comes to the quality of buskers. That way we can ensure the quality of buskers in order to prevent complaints. We have very popular star singers in the 70s and the 80s. But we also need to encourage young people to develop their potential. There are no measures or policies in relation to busking. Secretary, can you work on this so that busking will become a suitable performance venue for people to develop their potential? Many people are good at singing. Say, right now we have a singing program on TVB. That is Midlife Sing and Shine. Secretary, thank you. In a minute, I will give the floor to the Director of LCS to give you more information on the ambience in society. If members of the public embrace this culture, things will be easier. It is not true that we don't have any policies. Our policy is not to disrupt the public. There are many shows in Hong Kong. Well, there are different pop singers coming from different programs, say Midlife Sing and Shine, as well as different talent shows. Residents may not like it when buskers perform just downstairs their home. For the space of the Shouting Town Hall, young performers can use the area for free. There is an approval mechanism. Response has been quite well. From 2016 to March 2024, there have been a total of over 900 shows, averaging 10 per month. There are solo singing shows, busking performances, and so on. So we'll continue with this program. We also welcome comments from the public. We'd like to identify more performance venues for young people in Hong Kong. Any follow-up? Chairman, I want the Secretary to look into the certification system for buskers. This is recognition for buskers, and I believe this will be instrumental in increasing the quality. Next, Mr. Brave Chan. Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations, Secretary. Secretary has very good performance in other policy areas. We have a pamphlet of the blueprint. Is easy to read and understand. Right now, we are experiencing fiscal pressure. There are many measures contained in the blueprint. It is impossible to achieve all of them at one go, so we need to accord priority to some policies so that people in Hong Kong will see results step by step. We need to keep rolling out measures so the members of the public will see some good results from time to time. The Chief Executive mentioned there is always room to make it better. Ocean Park mentioned Panda products were sold out very fast. We need to promote Panda products can we produce a lot of panda products so that we can achieve the aim of everywhere is panda? We need to expand capacity, and we also need to attract more visitors to Hong Kong. This will help us drive the local economy. The secretary works very efficiently, just like what she did in the Housing Bureau. We'll help you promote good policies. I also want to talk about promoting museums, say Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance. Can we engage more stakeholders so that we can promote our history of the War of Resistance? We can work with different units. We have good contents. Many mainland tourists said that mainland China has all too many exhibits. There's a lack of venue for book fairs. Can we make good use of industrial buildings or vacant school premises so that we can build a round-the-clock book city in Hong Kong? You may as well charge rents, but we need to build a book city in Hong Kong. I look forward to the Secretary bringing us new results. Thank you.
Secretary, please give a brief response. We're running out of time. I thank Mr. Chen for offering so many ideas to us. We can work with state-owned enterprises as well as national museums. I think this is a good direction. We actually did this before, but we will continue to take this direction. Also, we will try our best to reduce costs. It may not be practical to look for years-long projects and investments now, but we will continue to work towards the right direction. Ms. Chen Yutming, I have questions about cultural icons. We've got good reputation for our films, and films is a great way for people to learn about Hong Kong. We need icons. For example, we need international stars as well as cartoon characters like Macau as well as Victoria Harbour. All these are icons that help us to tap into the mainland market. Since the Jockey Club in Macau closed, and Hong Kong is the only place in the Greater China where there is a horse racing court. We have to make use of our advantages. We have to leverage the forces of the WKCDA as well as the Hong Kong Jockey Club to incubate new icons so that we can facilitate people from overseas to learn about Hong Kong. One of the directions put forward by the blueprint is to promote the cultural characteristics of Lingnan legacy. There are villages in Hong Kong's rural areas that feature Lingnan legacy. We have Hakka villages, and in Taku Lane, we had a newsletter as well as a chronicle about Taku Lane villages. So the government should make good use of these. Also this year we saw the first Reading for All festival. However, we see a significant reduction in terms of the number of bookshops in Hong Kong. In the blueprints, there is mention about encouraging publishers to work with cultural facilities. I hope that the SAR government can learn from the book city in Shenzhen, and there are places in Taiwan that integrate bookshops with other cultural facilities. Secretary, it is true that we need our own brands in Hong Kong. We already have these brands, we just have to polish these brands and further promote them. Member mentioned about horse racing, and Member also mentioned about the West Kowloon Cultural District. These are some of the brands of Hong Kong. The Security Bureau is leading a project of shuttlecock. These are places with characteristics in Hong Kong which drew little attention in the past. So we will not neglect or omit these places. However, we do not want people living in the rural areas to feel that their daily lives are affected as we take forward different projects. Moving forward, we will promote places like Shuttlecock and Taku Lane. We will think about whether there is room to further promote these places. On reading, I myself encourage people to read. I myself like reading physical books. I hope the younger generation will not only read e-materials or e-books. I hope that they can actually pick up a physical book to read. I hope that it is commercially viable for us to promote reading culture in Hong Kong. Ms. Nixie Lam, congratulations, Ms. Law, and welcome to this panel. This past Saturday, I went to the Museum of the War of Resistance. After the revamp, there is rich content displayed in the museum. There is an interactive video displayed in the museum. However, the subtitles are very small, and the whole video was in English. The subtitles were, of course, bilingual, but I hope that the subtitles font could be made bigger. Just now there was mention about different promotional activities. When I worked as a district councillor in Tsuen Wan, every year there was subsidy to stage during Christmas Chinese music shows as well as orchestra show in the promenade of Tsuen Wan. We want to nurture the cultural literacy of our young children. However, there is an age limit in terms of spectators who are allowed to enter the Sha Tin at the Tsuen Wan Town Hall. I hoped we can make use of our parks to stage different performances. Perhaps you can work with the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau to see whether we can stage different arts and cultural performances in the 18 districts in Hong Kong. Also last week in the motion debate, I mentioned about arts and culture. I've talked to people who work in auction houses. A lot of the art collections are now in warehouses in Hong Kong. This is because there is no tax concession. If there is tax concession, these collectors don't mind selling them. This is because they feel proud if arts organizations or art galleries want their collections. I hope the government can do more in this regard. Hong Kong is one of the top places in the world with warehouses. We already have the warehouse facilities. I think we should identify venues and sites for holding art exhibitions. Also, on trendy items. These are very popular in Hong Kong. For example, I have the doll La Boo Boo. We can invite designers of these trendy items to come to Hong Kong, and then we'll be able to attract tourists from all over Southeast Asia to come to Hong Kong. The government should think of staging large-scale events so that we can draw footfall and capital. I believe different designers would love to come to Hong Kong to take part in these events. Secretary, please give a simple response. On performances at the district level, I think this is one of the directions we can explore. On orchestra shows, yesterday there was a great Chinese music performance in the WKCD. We also have the Symphony Under the Stars. Perhaps LCSD can respond to your questions about art auctions. On trendy items, we have, for example, Panda Go as well as the Doraemon show under the Tourism Bureau. The Tourism Board. LCSD. We will follow up on the subtitles issue of the Museum of the War of Resistance. On private art collection, we have over 10 museums in Hong Kong under LCSD. Some precious paintings can be displayed in the museums under LCSD, so we welcome any art collectors to approach us. 7 members are waiting to speak on this item now. Members who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm going to draw a line here. Next to speak, Mr. Bill Tang. Chairman, I'm not a member of this panel, but I heard Ms. Law's voice, so I rushed to this meeting room to join this meeting. After you have assumed this post, it looks like the traffic around the Kai Tak Cruise Terminal has improved. So I hope we can see more improvement under your leadership. I'm not good at arts and culture. However, I'm aware that there are many great stories in Hong Kong. In 1922, there was a strike, and it was launched by the seafarers. These seafarers got the encouragement from Mr. Sun Yat-sen, and these people became the leaders of the Chinese Communist Party. In 1925, there was another big strike, and it showed patriotism. In 1938, Mr. Zhang Sun, who was the secretary of the Seafarers Association, returned home because of the Japanese invasion. And this former secretary of the Seafarers Association then became the transport minister in China. In 1949, the 2 airlines also launched a strike. 12 airplanes flew from Beijing and Tianjin to Hong Kong. These historical events could become in storylines of big movies. Can our local talent work with filmmakers in China so that the 1.4 billion people in mainland China, they can learn about these stories? We should also make use of these movies to showcase places with characteristics in Hong Kong. We should promote these historical events and stories through films. On the 19th of November, we staged a microfilm screening to commemorate the event. The government said that in Kai Tak there could be elements that showcase the uprising of the two airlines. We can have a monument in Kai Tak to commemorate this event.
Secretary, please reply briefly. Well, as I understand, the proposal put forward by the member is already being worked on by the film industry practitioners. I believe investors who have affection for our country and Hong Kong will be willing to invest in such a scheme. In relation to the cruise terminal, I thank my colleagues for their efforts. They have taken on board your views and they have done a lot to improve the traffic situation. On the development of Kai Tak, we had an idea. We want to turn it into a place for entertainment. Some pieces of land in Kai Tak have been used for other purposes. I believe we can always identify suitable parcels of land in Kai Tak for development. Well, as I mentioned, I will draw a line. Now I will draw a line right here. 6 members haven't yet asked questions, and I'm the last to go. Next, Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations, Secretary. Using big data to analyze market needs is the main trend. Social media platforms use big data to analyze audience preferences. In a blueprint, one of the development directions is that there will be the development of a statistics and data database. The purpose is to provide a sound foundation for the formulation of policies. And I want to know what kind of data are included and how are you going to obtain these data? Will the government use big data to analyze, or how will you do so to analyze the preferences of locals as well as visitors? Say their preferences in relation to music and so on. That way we can attract the production units of the relevant preferences of locals and visitors. The Hong Kong government has been said to be not moving with the times, but I can see that the outfit of the secretary is very trendy. So I believe the policies to be rolled out by the government will also be modern, just like the outfit of the secretary. I hope the administration will use big data. And Secretary, will you use big data in relation to the mega ACE funds in order to make sure the public funds are used in a better manner? Secretary, well, I cannot go into great details. I need to talk to my colleague in relation to the collection of data on the database, but I thank member for having high hopes on us. I want the local arts and culture and creative industries can cater for a wide range of audience in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has been successful, and we have been catering for a wide range of people in Hong Kong. Preferences, what is in trend, we need to keep abreast of the times. We need to monitor the trend. We need to know what is all the rage right now. Thank you. Next, Dr. So Chang Wei. Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations on your promotion, Secretary. Just now, the Secretary has answered quite a lot of questions. Well, Secretary, If you find some of my questions quite embarrassing, you don't have to answer me. For some questions, you might be put in an embarrassing position. You have taken office for 3 days only, so it's impossible for you to answer all questions in great detail. Secretary, you are an official with a great sense of responsibility. You are pragmatic. You clamp down on the abuse of public housing units. In 2019, you sent a letter to the local courts, so I don't want to affect your image. Just now, members talked about issues with the West Kowloon Cultural District. In the council, in the panel, many members asked the administration questions about the WKCD. But the answers given by the secretary just now let me down. For instance, in relation to traffic congestion, or no transport going to the WKCD, these are at extreme ends. Mr. Calvin Young also answered this question. You mentioned one can walk from Elements to the WKCD. I hope you will look into the situation before answering this question. It is actually quite far to walk on the footbridge from Elements to the WKCD. For commuters, it's not convenient for them either. There aren't many minibus routes. There aren't many bus routes. There's a circular route. There used to be a circular route connecting to the WKCD, but the service was suspended, and this is indeed a serious problem. All the way from the WKCD to the cruise terminal to the Kayak Sports Park, I hope you will think about transport connection among these spots. I hope you will make traffic arrangements. Say M Plus Museum. The ground stores are closed after 7 p.m. Tourists said that these stores have great scenery. They are facing great views. In Shanghai, however, the city life is getting more vibrant even in the evening. It's been 18 years since the commissioning of the WKCD. We have 2 museums. They are iconic in the district. But apart from that, I don't see anything more than that. Well, Dr. So has already used up his time. I think the secretary does not have to provide a response. Probably the secretary needs time to digest what Dr. So has said. Next, Ms. Maggie Chan. Thank you. The secretary has assumed this position for 3 days, but I believe she has grasped the main direction of the blueprint. She's willing to take on board our views. I think the secretary is practically impulsive, and that is very important. We talk about hardware, and we also talk about museums. but I think there's a lack of overall development strategies and promotional strategies when it comes to hardware of museums. From 2015 to now, there is Hong Kong Museum Festival this year from the 1st to the 30th of November. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok, chairman of the panel, had an oral question on the 30th of October. The promotion of the festival wasn't started early enough. The promotional strategies are too fragmented. We only saw the promotion of the festival on the 30th of October. For the 15 museums under the purview of the LCSD, are there any KPIs under each museum? For Museum West, you can provide information after the meeting in a written manner. You don't have to tell me the figures right now. For the Chinese Culture Center, I understand the center is going to be built in a former barracks. We need to incorporate technologies into the Chinese Culture Experience Center, but it's a historic building. When we add technologies and equipment to the center, it's quite difficult. The public pin high hopes on it. They look forward to 3D experiences. But probably you are going to spend $300 million to $600 million into the Chinese Culture Experience Center. We need to think how to make better use of the funds. When you attract locals and visitors to the museums in Hong Kong, do you have a map of the entire Hong Kong showing the different locations of museums alongside other F&B venues as well as arts and culture spots? That's exactly how we should develop museums. We shouldn't make fragmented efforts. That won't make us an East-Meets-West International Cultural Exchange Center. Secretary, thank you. On the promotion side, I go along with Ms. Maggie Chan. There is indeed room for improvement. In a moment, after discussing this agenda item, we are going to discuss the development and planning of museums under the LCSD. We can go into greater details in due course. On the promotion of the museums and the latest exhibits or shows, the Tourism Board has thematic promotions. They target visitors who are interested in museums. We can enhance promotion in this regard. For the information requested by Ms. Maggie Chen, we will see how to consolidate the information required. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Falk. Thank you, Chairman. On behalf of the 4 sectors which are closely related to you, I'm afraid I may take 1 whole hour to ask you questions, but I'll be quick and concise. I hope the Secretary will meet with the sector and listen to the sector. We are waiting to meet with the Secretary. In the interest of time, I'll be quick. Just now we talked about developing the industry. The GBA plays an important role. We need to expand the market. The blueprint mentions a one-stop shop. There may be legal, ecosystem, or ticketing issues. The Secretary can draw reference from the practice of the HYAB, support in relation to legal matters can be provided in the area. Storage and warehouses are also important. The administration will have to discuss with the Guangdong municipality in order to solve this problem. I'm the chairman of the Arts Development Council. We have held the Hong Kong Arts Expo, Hong Kong Performing Arts Expo. There are expectations worldwide, and I hope the Secretary will discuss with us as early as possible, so we'll let the public know whether we are going to hold the Hong Kong Performing Arts Expo. Next, on movies, we are glad to see The Last Dance breaking the box office record. However, we are also seeing the closure of cinemas. Regarding the licenses of movie theaters, can we allow more flexibility not just to show films in cinemas, so that different events can be held in cinemas? Say there could be live shows in cinemas. Well, the industry will then explore room to develop more potential. The industry has a demand or has a call, that is to simplify licensing procedures. I hope the Secretary will be aware of that. In relation to ETO, the policy address mentions leveraging on the role of overseas ETO. Do you have any concrete information? Will it help performing arts groups to go global? Thank you.
Secretary, I'll be quick. Thank you, Mr. Fogg. Indeed, 4 minutes is not enough for us to have an in-depth exchange, so I look forward to having further exchanges with the sectors on how we can collaborate with Guangdong Province to support members of the film industry in Hong Kong so that there are opportunities available in the GBA for locals. We will look into this. On venues for live shows, I think this is a great suggestion. We will see how we can further remove red tape. Turning to ETOs, they have been helping to promote arts and culture. They have been leading local arts groups to stage performances in different places. I have to see whether we can make good use of the ETOs so that there can be more performing opportunities for local arts groups. Mr. Perry Yu. Congratulations, Ms. Law, for the promotion. Mr. Kenneth Fogg, representing the arts and cultural sector, has just spoken, and I'm from the tourism sector. I care about the local tourism development, so I'm here attending this item. Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak. Perhaps the Secretary will have to attend different panel meetings to address questions about the tourism industry. Many things discussed today have to do with the tourism industry. However, today the focus is on arts and culture, and in the other panel meetings, perhaps the focus is on the economic aspects of the tourism industry. Now, my question is about sports and tourism. With the opening of the Kai Tak Sports Park, we will be in a good position to promote sports, horse racing should be something that we promote. I think there should be more integration between culture, sports, and tourism. Since the establishment of the culture, sports, and tourism, I see that the government has been promoting such integration. However, there is a lack of opportunities for people from the tourism sector to work with the arts and culture sectors. For example, there's a lack of platforms for all of us to get together. The government should consider putting in place a mechanism to facilitate the interaction and exchanges between all these sectors. If we're able to bring all of these people together, we'll be able to promote creativity. We have different committees under the government with members from different sectors. However, these committees haven't been able to promote the integration. Secretary. Compared to arts, culture, and sports, I have more old friends from the tourism sector. In the press conference a few days ago, I mentioned that I do want to meet new as well as old friends, and I will make the relevant arrangements as soon as possible. The current government established the Culture and Sports and Tourism Bureau. It is a big step for the government. And we have seen results after the establishment of the Bureau. Currently, we have different committees. For example, we have the Tourism Strategy Group under the government. There could be cross-sectoral exchanges or cross-committee exchanges, so that members from different sectors can have more exchanges. Now it's my turn. I'm putting myself as the last member to speak. I have a number of questions, but we don't have enough time today. On this blueprint, I have a couple of questions. I've read this blueprint 3 times. I tried to look for statistics from this blueprint, and I only managed to find 2 sets of data. The first set concerns the previous assessment. Statistics relating to the performance of the industries from 2005 to 2022. The other set of data concerns the vision and development of the sectors between 2024 and 2034. I've made some analysis myself. Over the past 17 years, from 2005 to 2022, the GDP was $52.3 billion to $121 billion. The average growth per year was about 5.5%. I'm not sure if the inflation rate was taken into account. It is just a rough estimate made by myself. Persons employed by these sectors grew from 172,000 to 221,000, representing an average growth of 2,880 jobs per year. From 2022 to 2034, it is estimated that the value added will reach $120.1 billion to $200 billion. So it represents a 4% growth per year. As for persons employed, it's about 2,750 per year. in terms of the increase, and this is lower than the yearly increase in the past 17 years. I don't understand, because in the past 10 years we didn't have many policies that promote the growth of industries, and over the past 17 years we saw a very downtime for the music and film industries. Still, we saw a 5.5% growth per year in terms of its GDP. In 2014, we saw Occupy Central. In 2019, there was black-clad violence. And we had 3 years of COVID pandemic afterwards. Still, we saw a 5.5% yearly growth. And this is a very low percentage point, because in some neighboring places, the percentage growth stood at over 10. Starting from 2022, the government has been allocating resources to different facilities, including West Kowloon Cultural District, as well as the Kai Tak Sports Park and 5 to 6 other museums. The total allocation amounts to about $100 billion. We are positioning ourselves as the East-Meets-West Center for international cultural exchange, and people have high hopes for this. And according to my calculation, the yearly growth in the coming 10 years will just be about 4%, and the number of persons to be employed by these sectors will just be about 2,700 per year in terms of the increase. If these sectors are going to be the core pillars of Hong Kong, these figures are considered to be the low side. Also, I agree with what Mr. Perry Yu said about integrating ourselves into the national development. In 2000, we reviewed our cultural policies, and it's been years now. I think we need to have another review. Also, I have questions about the top-level design, and I want to learn more about your thoughts. Secretary, you can choose whether to reply to my questions or not. Chairman, I think you have raised a lot of questions that I need to think about. I'm afraid I won't be able to address your questions about the figures. We cited real economic growth figures for the arts and culture and creative industries in the blueprint. I think we should not be overly optimistic. So I think we are heading to the right direction if we are on the conservative side, like the chairman said. We've been talking about integration of arts, culture, sports, and tourism. And I think by establishing the Culture, Sports, and Tourism Bureau, the current term government has made its first step. Traditional Chinese culture is crucial for us to promote growth in the arts and culture and creative industries, and we will continue to work on this. I've just taken up this post, and I will look into the questions you raised. I agree that it is appropriate for us to review our cultural policies, as we have to make sure that we are moving with the times. I believe we have wrapped up this item. The next item will be chaired by the Deputy Chairman. Next agenda item, Leisure and Cultural Services Department Museum Development Plan. Let us invite the government representatives to enter the meeting room.
Members who would like to speak, please press the button to request to speak. The last agenda item we spend more time on it, so please manage the time well. 4 minutes questions and answers included. I'll first ask Mr. Risin Lau, Undersecretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, to walk us through the paper. In 2024, President Xi Jinping mentioned that we have to perfect our museum enterprise. The construction of museums should be more comprehensive and systematic, and they should play their educational role to the full. Museums play a very important role in education. The administration attaches great importance to museums. There are 15 museums and 2 art spaces under the purview of the LCSD. We aim to enhance the travel experience of visitors. On different fronts, we have been continuing to improve the services of museums. The current term government develops Hong Kong into an East meets West international cultural exchange. We have different initiatives, say the 10-year development blueprint on arts and cultural facilities, and we will also build 2 museums to introduce the history and achievements of our country. There are forming directions under the blueprint. And it is very important to promote profound traditional Chinese culture and develop cultural contents with Hong Kong character. We need to turn museums into tourist hotspots to drive the local economy. So we will consolidate the overall planning of museums. There are 50 museums, and we will increase to no less than 20 museums in the future. There are 5 main targets. 1. We need to deepen the public's understanding of Chinese history and culture and national affairs, promoting patriotism and fostering the inheritance of fine traditional Chinese culture. We need to promote Hong Kong culture, such as pop culture, to further boost cultural confidence, promote the development of astronomy, technology, and science, advocate the scientific spirit, and popularize scientific knowledge. We will also promote arts and culture development in Hong Kong to cultivate cultural sophistication and enhance arts and culture standards. In addition, we will provide cultural facilities for NDAs to strengthen the cultural soft power of the new metropolis. The relevant details have been set out in the document, and I will walk members through a few main points. In the 2023 policy address, the Chief Executive said that we would build 2 museums to introduce the achievements and the history of our country. We have set up the Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense, which was converted from Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense. We will build a dedicated museum to introduce the achievements and history of our country. We have taken on board the views of members as well as local stakeholders. We understand we need a large space, and after having consulted the Development Bureau, we will choose the Northern Metropolis, that is Kowloon, to build this museum. It will be more flexible, and it will also connect people from the mainland and Hong Kong. There will be space for infrastructures, and we can also leverage on the proximity with the GBA to attract footfall from across the boundary. We can also achieve synergy. We are also building the Heritage Conservation and Resource Center in Tin Shui Wai. It will become an East meets West Center for heritage conservation and resource sharing. We are going to build the Chinese Culture Experience Center in the Kowloon Park so that we can connect Chinese culture with the public. And we will also expand the Hong Kong Science Museum and the Hong Kong History Museum. For projects that are being planned. We are building the Pop Culture Center, and we will also build another center in Wangzhouhang. We are setting aside to build culture facilities to enrich the local cultural factors. We have collected views from the public and stakeholders. We'll consider what themes to be adopted. In the future, when the museums being planned are being commissioned, we will review the positioning of the Hong Kong Film Archive and Hong Kong Heritage Museum. We will also review the Hong Kong Space Museum. We'll proactively develop museums in order to provide more diversified and enriched experience for visitors, so that the museums we have in Hong Kong will be more in touch with the needs of the community. Thank you, Undersecretary. 5 members have pressed the button to request to speak. Mr. Benson Lok, Mr. Vincent Chang, Ms. Maggie Chan, Mr. Perry Yu, and me, myself. Mr. Benson Lok, thank you. The document covers development and planning of museums. It covers 8 museums that will be built, as well as 15 existing museums. There will be upgrading, capacity expansion, and so on for these museums. Apart from showing the cultural factors and colors of Hong Kong, museums also attract visitors. An important element has not been touched on, that is resources, financial resources. We are expecting a fiscal deficit of $100 billion. Do we need to spend public funds on developing these museums? For construction fees and exhibition fees, we can adopt PPP, private-public partnership. Many enterprises are talking about ESG. S, that is the social responsibility. Many enterprises want to look for suitable sponsorship projects. They can enhance their enterprise image, and they can also fulfill ESG. On the overall museum planning, have you considered PPP? Next, in the private market, when it comes to the private market's participation in museums or museum projects, have you discussed the possibility of this with stakeholders? Undersecretary, thank you. We don't rule out the possibility of working with the private sector. We are willing to consider new modes of collaboration when it comes to construction and development of museums. We are willing to discuss with the private sector if they are interested in some projects in order to achieve a win-win situation. On the one hand, we can provide better experiences to locals and visitors alike, and on the other hand, we can also reduce public funds use. We are proactively looking for sponsorships from the private market. When it comes to holding special exhibitions, we can invite contributions from the private sector. So there could be larger scale exhibitions. Or on a range of exhibits, we can have close collaboration with the private sector. If they have their own treasures, we can consider making arrangements for the public to appreciate these exhibits. We are working on this. Any follow-up? Thank you, Deputy Chair. I hope the administration will be more proactive. Some museums have budgets for sponsorships. Be it sponsorships or naming, it's possible to have the private sector participating in these projects. We're willing to consider all these. There was an oral question when it comes to privately run or operated museums. They entail private funding and support. And I hope the private sector will render assistance to privately operated museums. If they want to sponsor some projects of public museums, we are more than willing to discuss with them. Thank you, Undersecretary. Next member, Mr. Vincent Chang. Thank you, Deputy Chair. On the overall development and planning of museums, this document details the functions of museums. I support this document. I have 3 concerns. One, we support the Chinese Culture Experience Center. We have the LCSD director with us. Kowloon Park is a cultural zone. We hope we'll see not just the Chinese Culture Experience Center, we also need to create an ambience that is a cultural ambience in the locality. In relation to the Hong Kong Science Museum and Hong Kong Museum of History, we need to expand the museums. It takes some time, but many Hong Kong people are concerned about the future development of Hong Kong Science Museum. I hope you work faster in relation to privately operated museums. Many people donate artistic exhibits to museums. For niche or smaller scale privately operated museums, they can be turned into new tourist hotspots. Say Ngongping 360, there are 3 new exhibit galleries. They are strategically located in Ngongping 360. It would be good to encourage more of these exhibitions or privately operated museums. Undersecretary, thank you. We fully agree with you. We'll follow up on your suggestions after the meeting, including making better use of Kowloon Park to dovetail with the location of the Chinese Culture Experience Center. We can also foster more closer collaboration with the public. We are in a home stretch of the preparation for the Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. We'll report to the Council soon. Many private collectors have donated their exhibits to us. We'll consider relevant arrangements to see how we can attract more private collectors to donate their exhibits so they can share their collectibles with the public. I went to the new exhibition of Hong Kong Museum of History. It features a wide array of exhibits. And a response from the Undersecretary. Thank you, Mr. Chang. We'll continue to work hard. Next, Ms. Maggie Chan. Thank you, Deputy Chair. On the development of museums, first of all, I need to commend the administration for the Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. I'll call a spade a spade. The East River Column is an important history in Hong Kong. We respect the 150 martyrs, and their names are shown on the roll of honor listing their names belonging to the battalion. I thank the officials for exploring this issue with me. Officials are pragmatic. I also need to tell you our expectations. Next year, it's the 80 years anniversary of the War of Resistance. That is the Victory Day of Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression. So I'd like to ask the Undersecretary what plans you have in mind. On the shortcomings of museums, for the 15 museums under the LCSD, we have hardware, but they are quite fragmented. There is no holistic and strategic promotion. Is it possible for the LCSD to work with different units, say the Tourism Board or other privately operated museums, in order to achieve collaborative effects? Say, can we have a museum map for all 15 museums in Hong Kong? We can also drive the local F&B industry and the local economic development. I'd also like to talk about the Chinese Culture Experience Center. We need to spend $300 million or so to renovate or overhaul the center. There are a lot of calls in the community to introduce the elements of technology, but after all, this is a historic building. When we incorporate technological elements into the experience center, will it pose challenges to the center? I hope the Undersecretary will use technology in this regard. Right next to the Experience Center, we have another museum. And this museum or center is not included in the 15 museums. For Port Island, we have relics. This is a good example to showcase what we have. Can we achieve synergy when it comes to this? For the 15 museums, can you tell us more data? 6.35 million visitors visited these museums in 2023. Can you tell us the distribution of these visitors? Do you have any KPIs? Thank you.
Welcome.
Please give a brief response, Undersecretary. I thank Ms. Maggie Chen for her commendation on our works on the Hong Kong Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. Next year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory of Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression. We have a whole series of plans to commemorate this victory. We also want to nurture our spirit of patriotism through our commemorative events. Like the Chief Executive said, there is always room for us to strive for excellence. In the future, we will review how we can improve our publicity efforts on the 15 museums so that we can drive growth of different industries. We also hope that there can be cross-sectoral collaboration to create a good synergy. Also, we will incorporate technology into the Chinese Culture Experience Center so that more people can learn about the Chinese culture. The good thing about the site is that there will be lots of outdoor areas for outdoor experiential activities. This is one of the reasons why we picked this site. Under the Antiquities and Monuments Office, we have the Heritage Conservation and Resource Center. We hope that there can be more in-depth collaborations between our bureau and the AMO so that we can better serve the public's needs. On the attendance figures of the 15 museums, we will provide the relevant information after the meeting. Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm afraid that there is no time for Ms. Maggie Chen to pose follow-up questions. Mr. Perry, you please. I support the development and planning of museums under the LCSD department. I have some questions. Just now, the Undersecretary said the CSDB has to improve its development and planning of museums in Hong Kong so that it can drive the growth of the tourism industry as well as the local economy. I'm glad that the government is seeing the museums we have as part of the attraction sites. Should we change our mindset in terms of the provision of free guided tours? Understand there are limited resources under the LCSD. For guided tours involving over 20 people or more, travel agencies are excluded from applying to take part in the schemes. Only non-profit making organizations or schools could apply to join the schemes. However, we want to give full play to our museums. In order for our museums to play an educational role, travel agencies are crucial. It's always better to have guided tours. If you go to museums and if you don't join any guided tours, you only end up taking pictures before you leave the museums. So guided tours actually play an important role for museum goers. Can you make sure that museums can play an effective role by encouraging travel agencies to incorporate museums into their itineraries so that they can help tell good stories of Hong Kong? This is my first question. Paragraph 29 of the paper talks about the need to set up a pop culture center. I'm all for this, as we know that the film and TV industries in Hong Kong are crucial because our films and TV programs have been popular among Chinese people in different places. Do you have any thoughts about this? Undersecretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Yu. On guided tours, as you know, we have to prioritize our use of resources. It's not that we do not want to offer such services, but because of limited resources, we prioritize schools and non-profit making organizations. In different occasions, we have mentioned that we are willing to work with the tourism sector to see how we can address the needs of the industry. For example, we can offer docent training for tour guides so that tour guides can better serve their customers. This is a reasonable use of our resources. We can train the trainers so that tour guides can help promote our heritage. On the Pop Culture Center, we're now trying to look for a site. The Pop Culture Center should be set up in a popular place with enough footfall or foot traffic. Apart from transportation facilities, we need to find a place where there are resources. So we've been trying to finalize the site. After we've identified the site, we'll be able to kickstart the planning. And same for the museum showcasing the development and achievements of our country. We have to first pick a site for the Pop Culture Center. I'm the last one to speak on this item. I have visited the Museum of the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. I'm not going to repeat the points touched on by Ms. Maggie Chen. I see that some of the suggestions and materials provided by our party FTU are included in the museum. I think this is commendable because all this information can help educate our young people about the history of Hong Kong. Next year marks the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, and I see that the government has plans to celebrate this. I think we should make good use of technology in our museums. In the panel meeting in October, I mentioned to the government that we should draw reference from Guizhou. There is the digital museum with 3D immersion in the museums. I hope that there can be better use of digital technologies in our museums. Now I want to turn to nurturing of talent. I see that there is a lack of programs offered by the 8 UGC-funded universities about museum. Programs related to museum may be history or anthropology. The Hong Kong U Space offers programs on museum management. It is a BSc program. Will the government talk to the Education Bureau as well as the UGC on how to cultivate talent so that we can lay a solid foundation on developing ourselves into an East-Meets-West Center for International Cultural Exchange? Thank you, Madam Chair. You asked some meaningful questions. We do have to talk to the Education Bureau to see how we can better cultivate local talent to cope with the museum development in Hong Kong, as well as to better cater to the needs of the public. Apart from offering programs and training, like the paper mentions, one of the major functions of the Heritage Conservation and Resource Center is to train up local talents on heritage conservation. Apart from post-secondary programs, we should nurture our young people since they are little so that they can witness the process of heritage conservation. We should even allow them to take part in heritage conservation. We should start nurturing talent since they are of a young age. This is what we've been doing. Indeed, the LCSD has an online platform. We hope to, through this platform, stimulate young people's interest in heritage conservation. We'll continue to enrich the content of the website so that more young people will be interested in joining the museum industry. Thank you. Thank you, Undersecretary. 5 members have posed questions. They are supportive of the government's plan and they provided some valuable comments. I believe these comments can help enrich the development blueprint for the Hong Kong Tourism Development 2.0. Some of the views mentioned in the previous agenda item can also contribute to the development blueprint. Now we can move on to the next agenda item, Community Care Fund. Let's invite the government representatives to join us. Members who would like to speak, please press the Request to Speak button.
咁因為我哋都仍然係按我哋原定嘅時間咧係。
We are behind our schedule, so I'll give each member 4 minutes, questions and answers inclusive. Let me invite Chairman of the CFF Task Force, Mr. Chris Sun, to walk us through the paper. Madam Chair, I'm happy to be here to brief members on the latest progress of the Community Care Fund. Since our last report at this panel meeting, the Commission on Poverty endorsed some new programs. They include the trial scheme on special allowance for households of light public housing, as well as stepping stone pilot scheme on subsidy to encourage employment of disabled recipients under the CSSA scheme. This is a scheme that encourages disabled people to take up jobs, and both schemes entail a funding of some $200 million, benefiting some 648,000 people. And it is approved that starting from Q4 this year, 3 drugs are added to the CFF medical assistance programs. Starting from mid-December 2024, a total of 29 self-financed cancer drugs will be covered under the programs. For details, please refer to the paper we submitted. I'm happy to take questions from members. Thank you, Secretary, for the brief account.
Okay, 咁啊，
Two members have pressed the button to request to speak, Mr. Vincent Chang and myself. Members who would like to speak, you can press the button as well. Mr. Vincent Chang. Thank you. We support the Community Care Fund CCF. We also support the 2 schemes, especially the trial scheme on special allowance for households of LPH. I have helped quite a lot of subdivided unit residents to move into light public housing. House moving costs are one of the major concerns, so I believe this scheme will help them. More services can be provided to them. When they have to move to more remote areas, say the new territories, they have more concerns. So there could be more guided tours to take them to these light public housing units. We can also tell them the benefits of moving into light public housing. On community living rooms, I have to thank the Secretary for rolling out this program. This program helps many subdivided unit households. Children, housewives, they go to the community living room for different purposes. For example, housewives go to community living rooms to mingle with one another. The government is taking forward basic housing units. Some households are worried that they might be forced to leave or to vacate the housing units. The community living rooms are a good space to provide them with more information. In the consultation period, probably we can provide more avenues for them to get access to information. You don't necessarily have to hold talks, but we can let them know the safeguards they have. Thank you, Deputy Chair. I will ask Mr. Wong to tell members about the special allowance for households of transitional housing. We have 4 community living rooms that are operating in the community, and we are going to add 3 more at least. From the perspective of users of these units, they are exactly the households of light public housing or transitional housing. On retraining, on helping women to look for jobs, we are doing a lot on this front. And I believe members are familiar with different programs, and we can together take forward these initiatives. I'd like to ask Mr. Stephen Wong from the Housing Bureau to tell you more. As at the end of November, we have subsidized 8,300 households. close to 16,000 households or people have benefited from the program. The funding amount is a total of $33.3 million, accounting for some 40% of the total expenditure. Some applications are the 7th round applications. This program will help those who are going to move into the new territories, whether transitional housing or public housing. We have already put the application forms in the community living rooms in order to ramp up publicity. Thank you. Thank you. I follow the practice of Mr. Ma Feng-kwok, and I will let other members speak first. Then I will ask questions. Ms. Maggie Chan, thank you. I support community living rooms in order to leverage on the advantages of community living rooms. We have been talking about developing good family values and family traditions. We can promote social harmony in this regard. We can also inject positive energy into the future generations. In relation to the pilot scheme on maintenance, this program started in October only. I understand there are no data to reflect the effectiveness right now. This pilot scheme, however, is actually a very good program. It is a good policy. Well, regarding the program, does it concern any disputes across the boundary? For the scheme that is the maintenance mediation scheme, it's not targeted enough. We need to provide a one-stop shop in order to provide mediation services in relation to maintenance. This scheme is a good policy, but will we further expand the scheme in order to cover more groups in the mainland, say Federation of Women in Mainland China? And as I understand, there are also Hong Kong groups handling disputes of Hong Kong families in mainland China. Will we improve interface in order to improve the scheme as a whole? Secretary. Thank you. I will ask Mr. Nick Aoyang to tell you more about the maintenance mediation scheme. As Ms. Maggie Chen mentioned, this scheme started only on the 9th of October. As at the end of November, we have handled a total of 38 cases. We'll continue to ramp up publicity in order to promote this scheme. On eligibility, as long as one party involved in the dispute is a Hong Kong resident, then they can take part, they can join the scheme. In relation to the next step, that is, can we work with mainland units? We'll consider the possibility, but the scheme started only in October. We'll keep in view the scheme and we'll see how to map out the future directions. Ms. Maggie Chan, well, I thank the government for their active response. We look forward to more liaison with mainland China. Interactions with the social welfare sector in mainland China is very important to Hong Kong people. Any response from the administration? No. Myself. On the report of the CCF, I'd like to ask about the healthcare front. I'd like to ask about mainland manufactured drugs being used in Hong Kong. How can we promote China manufactured drugs to the world? on subsidizing Hong Kong patients to purchase very expensive drugs, say the drugs of cancers or very rare diseases. Since the setup of the fund in 2017, my record is that a total of 158 people have benefited from the scheme. This year, in this report, I can see an increase of 100%. That is, the figure increased to 347. I want to know how many people have benefited from the scheme. That is, do you have any breakdown? The means test has been improving under the Commission on Poverty. In relation to new criteria, do you have any relevant mechanisms to allow more China-manufactured drugs to be used in Hong Kong? This is my second question. Secretary. I want to give the floor to Ms. Priscilla Poon from the Hospital Authority. Thank you. Ms. Priscilla Poon. We see more people applying for this scheme. Having regard to drugs review, we have expanded the coverage of the drugs. So in a program targeting very expensive drugs, there are a total of 10 drugs under this program. We want to benefit more patients. We also want to benefit more patients, so we are working with different drug manufacturers to include more drugs. We want to cover more drugs in the Community Care Fund. On the arrangements of the fund, these are the arrangements we'll make. Whether we can expand the coverage of the drugs, I believe members have heard of the mechanism of 1+. For drugs that are registered in one country only, we want to allow these drugs to be used in Hong Kong as well. Under the 1+ mechanism, some drugs have been listed on the drug formulary of the Hospital Authority. We want to allow patients to receive significant subsidies in order to ease their financial burden. We also encourage drug manufacturers or suppliers to make use of the 1+ mechanism to have closer talks with us in order to import more drugs. Thank you. The 1+ mechanism is close to my heart. In relation to drugs, do you have more information? There are 100 or so applications. Right now, the figure has increased to 300 or so. We didn't analyze the breakdown of these patients. I think it's worth analyzing these data. It will help us understand how popular the newly introduced drugs are. So I'd like to seek supplementary information from the administration. 3 members have spoken on this item. Well, Ms. Maggie Chan wants to speak. So, yes, we do have time. Ms. Maggie Chan, please. I'd like to ask about the school-based after-school care service scheme. In the document for completed projects, are there any projects that are being implemented or will be implemented under the CCF? Well, they refer to the projects that have been completed. We are working on another project. And I will ask Deputy Secretary to respond first. In relation to the program mentioned by Ms. Maggie Chan, it was completed in 2016. After review of the effectiveness, the Education Bureau was found to have other support measures, so it wasn't continued. 2 years ago, we rolled out another program. So I'd like to see if Ms. Maggie Chan wants to ask about this program.
Yes, Secretary. I thank Ms. Maggie Chan for her interest in the program. We are currently launching the school-based after-school care service scheme. We only tested the program in a few districts. We are now expanding the program into all 18 districts in Hong Kong. We're targeting primary schools under the program. For low-income families or single families or single parents, their children can stay at schools after school hours under the program. And single mothers or mothers in general, they can take up part-time jobs because of this scheme. Some even told us that they can take up full-time jobs. Apart from benefiting families, we see that this program helps improve the parent-child relationships. Children, after going home, they do not have to have any fights with their parents because they haven't finished their homework. From the feedback we got, most participants of the program are grassroots families or low-income families. The participants told us that the scheme helps promote or improve parent-child relationship because parents don't have to worry about the children's assignments or homework when they get home. So we will continue to carry out this program. Yes, any follow-up questions, Ms. Maggie Chen? Yes. 2 years ago, I advocated the launch of this program in one of the motion debates, and I'm happy that the administration has taken on board my suggestions. However, I think there is always room for improvement. I hope that there can be an increase in the number of quotas under this program. I got good feedback from people about this program, so I hope the government can further enhance this program. For schools that need further support or for schools that have any concerns, I hope the government can play a coordinating role in offering support and assistance to them. Yes, Secretary, anything to say? We accept any applications from schools who would like to participate in this scheme. Some school principals told us that there can be some fine-tune in the details of the scheme. We hope that schools as well as welfare organizations can all benefit from this program and can work together to contribute to this program. Any follow-up questions, Ms. Chen? No, thank you. Well, because of the follow-up questions from Ms. Chen, it helps enrich the discussion of this item. And we also talked about the welfare arrangements under the medical assistance programs, and I'm glad that the administration has heard our views and that it will further enhance the programs. That's all for this item. I thank the government representatives for attending this item. Next agenda item, any other business. This meeting is the final meeting of this year. I thank the administration for participating and supporting this panel's work, and also thank members for their participation. There being no further business, meeting adjourned.